Hi, folks. I have here a Starlink Mini. The things are amazing, but they're kind of location dependent. And if you're camping at a regular campground, there's a decent chance that you're going to be shaded. Now, I'm in Virginia right now, and this is my house is here, and there's a lot of trees around. So it's a good. I'm here for a few weeks, so I can work through things like this. Uh, Starlinks don't like um, trees very much. If you've got a big clear space with no trees, they work wonderfully. If you've got trees, Starlink calls them obstructions, and they don't work so well. So what it wants is it wants a certain, what is it, maybe 120 degrees or something. I forget the exact, I think it's 120 degrees of sky. They, it, and so if you're seeing trees, there's a building there, there's a big tree there. I've got obstructions here. I still have a fairly decent signal, though, reasonable, but quite frequently I don't. So I wanted a way to, it's down on the ground right now on its little kickstand. And they come with something called a pole mount. I'm unplugging it. But it comes with this thing. Now I've added some magnets to it. And when you, if you need to mount it on a pole, you need a pole to stick into this. Or you can get these little adapters. And so there's something in here that's kind of like a puck. This whole thing cost me $10, I think. It's got a clamp on it, and it's got a camera mount hole on it. So if you had a camera tripod, you could use that. Now, one thing to know on these things is if you get one of these that was made after the 1st of January, I guess, if they're made in 2025, these things won't fit. The hole is now lined with a piece of metal, and I looked all over on Amazon. I even ordered one of them. It didn't say until I learned that you look for things called like original. It ain't gonna. If it says original, it's not gonna work because the hole in this is too small. So what I did is I found the cheapest one I could find, and then I got my sander out and I sanded it down. Generally, you want to face these north, although it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of difference. What I have here is I went into the store and I got started with painter's poles. And the guy in the paint department showed me one that was even longer than a painter's pole. This thing goes up to 16 feet long, which means that with this antenna on it, the Starlink antenna, I can get it way up in the air. Oh. And the Starlink is not very heavy, but you get it at the end of a 16-foot pole. That's a lot of leverage. Not, it doesn't hold it quite straight up and down. What I've got is a couple of little U-bolts here. And okay, I've got it facing north now. A couple of U-bolts, and I this basket down here, it probably looks a little weird because it's assembled incorrectly. I've actually turned part of it upside down. And the reason for that is I've got it lowered. I wanted it lower so I could open my tailgate and still have room for my boxes. But anyway, Starlink is booted up, and I can tell because of the power consumption. It's running along at about 20 watts right now. It doesn't take a whole lot of power, but it does take a good voltage, I guess. This is a little Jackery 300, and it says it's got in-out PD 60 watts right there, which you'd think that'd be enough. And PD, you need that. You need the PD thing with this. I don't know what that stands for. It's not enough power. So I have to use the cigarette lighter adapter. And only one of the plugs on this has enough power on it to run this thing. And it'll actually run with a little bit less power, I've found. But the Starlink cable, it has a little indicator on it. And if that little indicator is red, you aren't getting anywhere because you don't have enough power. So I have to use the correct plug here and this cigarette adapter, and it'll run off this little Jackery here, and it'll run for quite a while. I have another Jackery that the USB-C plug will work, but I don't carry it around. It's too big and heavy. But anyway, there's an app that comes with the Jackery, or that you download to run the Starlink, and it has a statistics button on it. And so I looked at the statistics when it was sitting on the ground here, and once it stabilizes, it usually takes a few minutes to stabilize. I'll look at the statistics again and see if I've made a difference. Now, I've still got I'm still hitting trees, but because I'm higher up, then it's like the trees are lower. I may have too much angle on that right now, because it likes to be reasonably flat. And I don't believe it is right now, so I'm with the sheriff. Come on, deputy. I'm going to take it down and put it back up again, but I'm going to change the angle a little bit. This is easier. This is much easier doing it this way. Okay. Oh, no, that's not the right thing. There we go. Let me turn that. Yes. Now that's more. That's closer to being pointing straight up. I'm literally pushing it through a tree right now. Isn't that too cool? I need to let it stabilize a little bit. And then we'll see what it looks like. Hopefully I've had an improvement. But even if I haven't had an improvement at this location, I'm confident that there are places I've been before. I wish I had this to get it up higher. And I'm confident it's going to work and be an improvement. Anyway, Starlink's pretty cool. Now, for going out truck camping, or any kind of camping, I suppose, you see a lot of people using RVs that have, usually not the Mini. Usually they have the regular Starlink, which is bigger. It's a panel about that big. Starlink's about half the size, or the Starlink Mini is about half the size, which means it takes up a whole lot less room. Now that pole's going to take up room, but I can set that under my bunk. It'll be fine. With Starlink, one of the disadvantages, which if you're interested in Starlink, you already know this, but the Mini, typically you have the roam plan because you got it because you want it the small size so you can get out and about, run around, that sort of thing. To get the unlimited data plan, it's like $160 a month. Now, if you need home internet levels of data availability, data, if you're using it, watching videos all day long on big screens and that sort of thing, you won't have. You will want an unlimited plan, but this has the 50 gig plan, 50 gig for $50. That may change, but right now that's what it is, and that's not a lot of data. However, I've also heard they've got a 10 gig plan for $10, but if you go with the 10 gig plan for $10, that'll give you a couple of days of usage, light usage. But if you go over and you want to buy more, it's $2 a gig. If you've got the 50 gig plan for $50, it's $1 a gig over. So, you know, you can look at it like even $50 is basically the threshold, you know, 50 gig. If you go over by 10 gig, that's $10. You got 60 gig for $60 or 70 gig for $70. And you don't have to have that $165 plan to have extra data, more data than 50 gigs. But what I'm finding is that I have a cell phone and I've got a pretty good data plan on it, or I get plenty of data on it. It's unlimited theoretically. I don't need to get out my Starlink often and for very long, um, because there's quite frequently you're going to find um, a signal. You go to a convenience or fast food place, or if you park outside a Walmart, or maybe you want to go to a hardware store or something like that, there's a good chance they got free Wi-Fi. And so you can download a movie there. Well, watch the downloaded movie. Whenever you get to campsite, you don't have a regular signal. If you haven't downloaded anything, you can still reduce your data usage. You know, if you want to use live data, if you want to watch YouTube or something like that, for example, you can go in on YouTube and select your how much bandwidth it uses, how much data it uses. But I don't know what the terms are in this, but you can reduce it from like 4K. There's no reason I need 4K if I'm watching YouTube on my cell phone. I download that to just a very thin line of data. It doesn't take much. I get it down. I think it's down on my cell phone. I've got it down to like 420, something like that. I can watch YouTube for a couple of hours, and I'm not really going to use very much data with if I've got it cranked down like that. And so that 50 gig will last me quite a while. Now, it's a monthly plan, so if you don't use it by the end of the month, you lose it. It doesn't roll over. But I've found I don't generally even get close to 50 because I move around a lot too. But there are times when you don't have a signal, and you can be driving down the road. I don't know if you've noticed this, but you drive down the road and all of a sudden you lose your signal. Like if you're crossing Arkansas, for example, trees and trees and trees, and cell phone towers apparently are few and far between. I've driven for a couple of hours before without a signal, and if you're using a map for navigation and you don't have a signal, if you didn't download the map ahead of time, you may not have what you need. And you certainly don't have YouTube. But you can set this thing on your dash. And as long as you keep it under 100 miles an hour, supposedly, I'm not going to test that, but if you keep it under 100 miles an hour, you have an internet signal. And it does work. I think it was Arkansas where I put it on my dash. Problem solved. And I didn't use more than a couple of gig, and that was driving. Now I'm driving all day. I think I used maybe 2 gig. If I did have a signal and I'm watching my cell phone, you know, I keep an eye on it. If I've got a cell phone, if I get close to a town and I've got a cell phone signal, I'd unplug the Starlink. I just reach down on my dash, pull out that cigarette lighter adapter, and it shuts everything down. So it works, and you can keep your data usage down by paying attention to it and doing things. You know, like I said, reduce. If you watch Amazon Prime, you can download movies, and there's quality levels that you can select. Now, if you're downloading them on a house connection, you don't care about the quality. It doesn't make that much difference. But if you're downloading over a Starlink, you want to choose that low bandwidth option, and you can download a couple of movies that way, and fine. But watch out for that kind of stuff. It makes Starlink a viable option, or for me it does. And I really enjoy being able to have internet access pretty much anywhere I go. And with this, I do. But like I said, I've been some places where there's so many trees, I couldn't even get a signal with this. Wait till the truck goes by. Anyway, I'm running off at the mouth now. It's just I've been waiting on it to stabilize, and now I'm going to test it, and hopefully it will show some improvement. But I'm confident that it will be better on some of the locations where I need to go. Anyway, I'm going to do that now. I'm going to check it.